जैसा सोचोगे तुम वैसा बन जाओगे, जैसा कर्म होगा वैसा फल पाओगे। श्रेष्ठ कर्म का आधार है खुद का कर लो दर्शन, यही जीवन का सार है, यही जीवन का सार है। जैसा सोचोगे तुम वैसा बन जाओगे, जैसा कर्म होगा वैसा फल पाओगे। मन में हो शुभ संकल्प तो जीवन में फिर दुख कैसा, जब अंतर में शुभ भावना तो दिल में सुख सावन जैसा। हार कर जो ना हारे जीत उसी की होती है, घनघोर अंधेरे में भी जलती जगमग उसकी ज्योति है। जैसा देखोगे तुम वैसा बन जाओगे, जैसा चाहोगे तुम वैसा बन जाओगे। ये सूरज है तो है किरण, बादल है तो है पवन, प्राण है तो है तन मन, सात सुरों में है सरगम, जो धरती है तो है सागर, जल थल है तो है जीवन, जीवन है तो है भगवन। भगवान के समय करो सफल, जैसा कर्म करोगे वैसा पाओगे फल। जैसा सोचोगे तुम वैसा बन जाओगे, जैसा कर्म होगा वैसा फल पाओगे। श्रेष्ठ कर्म का आधार है खुद का कर लो दर्शन, यही जीवन का सार है, यही जीवन का सार है। जैसा सोचोगे तुम
Om Shanti. Let's begin with few moments of self-awareness. As I allow the body to be still, I try to see myself. I am the seed of my tree of life. Just like the seed of a tree remains hidden, I, the soul, the seed, is hidden behind the eyes. With the eye of knowledge, I now become aware of myself. I am the soul, a subtle point of light sitting behind the eyes. I am an eternal soul. My journey is longer than the journey of this body. I am a being of light. I am a living star of light. I am eternal. I existed before this body. And I continue after this body. I am made of peace. I am an eternal being of peace. I sit in the awareness of my eternity and my peace. I have no fear. I am beyond death. I am always peaceful. Peace is my essence. Any amount of chaos outside can't take away my peace. I am ever fearless, ever peaceful. I know who I am. In this state of self-awareness, I am absolutely stable and peaceful. Just sit in this experience for some time. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. We talked about the truth that I am a soul, and we talked about the qualities of the soul and the faculties or abilities of the soul. Now, before further understanding how the faculties of the soul work, I would just like to talk a little bit about the eternity of the soul. So, I am a soul and I am eternal. You see, a soul takes many bodies. So, you are the being of light sitting behind the eyes of this body. And what is this body? This body is your temporary costume for this birth. Yes, this is just a temporary costume. When you leave it, you will have another body. You will continue to be who you are. And before this also, you have taken many bodies. And your journey is longer than the journey of this body. Now, you see, the biggest fear of anyone is death. People are afraid of death. Sometimes, you are afraid of death and you don't even know you are afraid of death. Because, people say, I'm not afraid of death, I'm afraid of disease. But then why are you afraid of disease? Because disease leads to death. So if you really introspect, you would know that there are only two fears in a person. One primary fears. One is the fear of death, and another is the fear of loss of reputation. So the fear of death and the fear of loss of reputation. These are the two fears that are the primary fears, and every other fear is connected to that. Yes, so when you understand that you are a soul, so you understand that you are deathless. You cannot die even if you want to. Yes, and I do not know whether death is a bad thing or eternity, but eternity is the truth. So I do not know whether, if given an option, we should choose eternity or death, but we don't have a choice and we are eternal. And when you can't die, when you never die, so there is no fear of death. So, people are very concerned about the fact that they don't want to die, or they don't want to die early, or they don't want to die, before this age or before something. They don't want to die of disease or something else. But really what people should be concerned about is not when they die, but how they leave the body. So it doesn't matter when you leave the body, because death as we know it is nothing but just a change in costume. So you will leave one body, take another body, and that is not a problem. But the problem is the state in which you leave the body will be the state in which you take another body. Just like, when you do accounting, then the closing balance on 31st March is the opening balance on 1st April. So whatever is your closing balance, so when you leave the body, whatever state of being the soul is in, so whatever is my quality of this, the 7 virtues, that state I will carry with myself. And when I take a new body, that will be in accordance with my sanskar that I take with me in my final moments. So whatever I do while I am in this body creates a sanskar or creates a state of being, and that state of being and sanskar I take with myself when I go to the next body. So, and accordingly I receive everything in that new, in that new context, whether it is the physical health, the spiritual health, the state of relationships around me, or whatever facilities I have around me. It all depends on the sanskars and the state of being that I carry with myself when I leave this body. Now, that is why, now our concern should not be when I leave the body, but how I leave the body. Because when you leave the body is not in your control, right? But if you are ever ready that I take the effort to create such sanskars that whenever I leave the body, I will take those good sanskars with me, then you have no fear of death, because you just change your costume and take another one, right? And we will also talk about how to overcome the fear of loss of reputation, but that we will do later, maybe tomorrow in some other day. So these are the two fears, and once you understand you are a soul, you are eternal, you are deathless, and you really internalize this, because you see, when you listen to knowledge, this knowledge is something that I have received from Paramatma, and I have internalized it and I am sharing it with you. But then you also have to think deeply about it in order for it to become your awareness. Do you do deep thinking about something, or do you there is this practice of deep thinking, what you say contemplative thinking. Now, what is contemplative thinking? Just sit and think about the fact that, am I a soul? So when you sit and think about it and churn over the points that are being given in the class, you arrive at an experience, a deep knowing that yes, I am a soul. And then the soul is eternal and deathless, so you can win over your fear of death. So this is first thing I wanted to say. And then today we will again go back to the picture that we were studying yesterday of the faculties of the soul and understand how the soul operates. So, can you see the picture? Please raise your hand. Yes, okay, thank you. So, now you see, we understood that the soul has three abilities or faculties: the mind, the intellect, and the sanskars. Now, let's understand the sanskars first. Now, sanskars are a set of habits. And how is a habit created? The simple method through which a habit is created is, whatever you do repeatedly creates a habit. Okay, so when you do something over and over again, it creates a habit, right? Now, we have habits of thoughts, habits of feelings, habits of attitudes, and habits of actions. We have these four kinds of habits with us. Are you aware of your habits? Do you recognize your habits? Some people say, I do stressful thinking. Some people say I do overthinking. Some people say, I think. Some people say I feel insulted all the time or sad all the time. So these are all our habits of thought, feeling, attitude, action, right? So you may be aware of some habits, but mostly you are not aware of your habits. Okay, now we will, because I gave you that example of, we are always looking outside. We know the habits of others. Have you ever seen somebody copying you? Yes. Have you seen somebody copying the way you speak or the way you do work? And do you find that funny? Yes, you find that very funny. You cannot believe that this is you. Yes, because you have patterns. everybody has patterns, patterns of thought, patterns of feelings, patterns of attitudes and action, and out of that, you speak, you behave, and those patterns are usually observed by other people around us, but they are not observed by us. We don't know our patterns until we really make the effort to see our patterns while we are acting. Now, what happens is, why are we not aware of our habits or sanskars? The simple reason is, when you are doing something out of habit, you tend to blame it on others. So, if somebody has a habit of criticizing, you would say, so you criticize every time, but then you say, I am not criticizing because it's my habit, I am criticizing because there is something wrong with you. And there is something wrong with you and everybody on the planet. And that is why criticizing is not my habit, it is something that I am doing because of you or because of the circumstance. And when we try to blame our patterns and habits on others and situations, we cannot see our own habits. This is the truth. Now, let me give you a very simple example. You see, there is this one brother, and he told me that my wife says that you have the habit of criticizing, but I criticize only my wife. I don't criticize other people around me. Okay? So, that means that it is not my habit to criticize. It is just that there is something wrong with my wife. So, I criticize him. So, I said, are you sure you don't criticize anybody else? And then I did not agree with him. I just, I tried to argue with him that no, you are a person who criticizes, and that is your habit. And then what happened? Suddenly he started criticizing me a lot. And then I told him, now do you see? You came here to tell me that you do not criticize anybody, but it's just 5 minutes since you've come and now you've started criticizing me. Now the thing is, you spend most of your time with your wife. That's why you think that she is the only person you criticize. But anybody you spend enough time with, you will end up criticizing that person because that is your habit. But it's very difficult to recognize our habits. It's very difficult to agree or accept that this is my habit, because it hurts the ego. You don't want to agree that this is a habit with me. And we have, for so long, we have just tried to dismiss our habits by saying that it is not my habit, it is something outside that is responsible for this behavior or this thought or this feeling of mine. And we have used this tool of blame for very long. But there is a very simple law. You see, if there is an orange and there is a lemon, and you apply equal pressure on it, then sweet juice will come out of the orange and sour juice will come out of the lemon. Now, it is true that habits manifest themselves under pressure, when you are under pressure. But when there is a pressure outside, what comes out is what is contained inside. So, yes, there is a situation outside, there is a behavior outside, but what is coming out of you, what you are doing in that situation or in the face of that behavior, is what's contained in you. It is your habit that is coming out. Yes, so we have to know this, and we have to work on our habits, because our behaviors, our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, they are a product of our habits. And by blaming them on others and continuing to do that, we are just reinforcing those sanskars or habits. Okay, and this is about habits. Now we have habits of thought, feeling, attitude, action. And right now, because we have had this long journey where we have done repeated action, repeated thinking in the same pattern, repeated feeling in the same pattern, depending on whatever we have been taught and conditioned into. So we understand that right now we are in a place where we have this set of habits of thought, feeling, attitude and action. Now you see this circle, there are two circles here. First circle is the circle of thought, sanskar, thought, action and then sanskar. So first is this circle. Now this first circle, the one which is colored brown or coffee, that circle is the circle of our present condition. Now what is happening in the present time? We have sanskars, good and bad both, right? And sanskars are habits, okay? So nothing more, nothing less, very easy. Sanskars are habits. So we have habits, good and bad, habits of thought, feeling, attitude, action. We have all these habits. Now these sanskars, they are responsible for how I think in a situation. Now yesterday we understood that the mind is responsible for thoughts. So now, right now, my mind is under the influence of my sanskars. And whatever is my sanskar, so is my thought. Whenever there is a situation, a stimulus outside, I am thinking according to my sanskar. And then as I think, so I behave, So first thing is I think as I am. Okay, so right now I have conditioned myself into some sanskars. I think accordingly and then I do as I think. So my actions follow my thought and then I become as I do. So whatever action I do now reinforces the already created sanskar. So now we are caught in this vicious cycle. Yes. Now let's say my sanskar is that of laziness. Okay, I am lazy. Now what happens is, in any situation, because of laziness, I will create a thought, I will do it later. Let me not do it today. Let me postpone it. Yes. And then I keep postponing it. I keep procrastinating it, I keep postponing things, I keep not doing it at the right time, and then I am reinforcing that sanskar of laziness. Got it? So this is how we are operating in a vicious cycle right now. So let's say I have a feeling, I have a habit of feeling, feeling insulted. Okay, I have a habit of feeling insulted. Have you seen people who can take insult at anything, anything under the sun? So even if you are talking to somebody behind closed doors, they are standing outside the door eavesdropping, and then they think that they must be talking about me, they must be talking ill about me, and they must be trying to insult me. Okay, so this is the kind of habit of feeling we have. Now what happens is, if you have this habit, then every time whatever happens, you take insult at it, you think that somebody insulted you, and then according to that action, when in the first session I gave you an example wherein if you think that somebody is insulting you, then you behave in such a manner that you invite that insult. So let's say you think that somebody insults you all the time. So what you do is you choose to not behave politely with that person. And then according to your action, you receive a reaction. And then you say, you see, I told you so, they keep insulting me. Now what happens is, whatever you think is happening to you, you bring about that reality through your own action, and then you say that, I told this, that this is what's going around. So you see, there is this saying that whatever you foresee, everything that you think is going to happen to you is going to happen to you, because you create it through your thoughts. Thoughts become things. So if you expect something to be happening, then you create it through your own thoughts, and then you feel that, it is happening because I know that this is what is happening. But it is not what was happening. You invited it, you created it through your own thought. And then your actions reinforce that sanskar, that yes, everybody insults me, everybody is bad to me. So we are caught in this loop of sanskar, thought, action and sanskars, and we are not able to come out of that loop. Now, how do you come out of that loop? This intellect is the key. Yes. So now you have to understand a very important principle. The principle says that you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness with which it was created. Okay. So you cannot solve any problem with the same consciousness with which it was created. You have to think over and over again about this law, and this is the most fundamental law on which all of spirituality is based. So, you need consciousness shift for reality shift. Now, let's take an example. People are trying to solve the gender issue, gender disparity issue or gender inequality issue with gender consciousness. Yes. So you think that, I am a man or a woman, and then you try to, solve that gender equality, gender inequality issue. But what happens is, you start, instead of, finding the solution, you start arguing about who is wrong and who is right, who is bigger or who is, who is smaller in this man and woman debate. Because the law says you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness with which it is created. Now, I will give you one example. So, there was this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan which was initiated, and then I was in office and there was this meeting about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And then there was this person who was presiding over the meeting, and then what he did is, after eating the banana, he threw the skin right there, He threw the skin right there, and then he was presiding over Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, but he was feeling so entitled and so privileged that he did not think that taking that banana skin to the dustbin is his job. Yes, so if you have that same consciousness that I am privileged, I am entitled, it is not my duty to keep the country clean, it is my servant's duty, then you cannot have a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So, do you understand that? You cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness with which it is created, because that consciousness is the root of thought and behavior. Now, when the consciousness is the same, you cannot change the thought and behavior. And what happens is, when we understand the spiritual knowledge, now in the outset of this session, I told you that I received this knowledge from Paramatma and I am sharing it with you. Now, in the later sessions, we will tell you where this knowledge comes from, or what is the source of this knowledge, and why I am saying this has come from Paramatma. But for now, let's understand that the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, is known as the restorer of conscience, or the Supreme Soul is known as the Buddhivano ki Buddhi, the one who opens the lock on the intellect. So now that Supreme Soul, he is the one telling us that you are not a body, you are a soul, because at best the knowledge that we had in the world was you are a body, you have a soul. We did not know I am a soul and what is the soul like, or how does the soul operate the body, or what is the soul made of. We had no information absolutely about this. And now we know that I am not the body, I am the soul. And my qualities, knowledge, purity, peace, love, happiness, bliss and power. So when I understand this, this enters my intellect. This is the first point. So how does the intellect get activated? The intellect gets activated when new knowledge enters the intellect. Okay. So when new knowledge, true knowledge is the food of the intellect. And when truth enters the intellect becomes very powerful. Now you see, if you really stay in the awareness that I am a soul and my qualities, knowledge, purity, peace, love, happiness, bliss and power, this is very powerful. And then what happens is, even if you are having a thought based on your sanskar that this is wrong with this person, that situation is wrong, this person is wrong, there is something wrong with the world, you are having these thoughts, but you can change those thoughts, because then you know that maybe everything outside is wrong and that is true. But who am I? I am a peaceful soul. I am a loveful soul. So what should be the quality of my thought? My thought should be peaceful and loveful. And then you stop creating, you stop blaming situations and people for your thought and behavior, and you start taking accountability of your thought and behavior. And you do as you are, not as they are. And when you start doing this, when your intellect gets activated and your actions are motivated by your understanding of who you are and what is your quality, then slowly this repeated action, again, the method to create new sanskars is also the same. What is the method? Any action you repeat n number of times, it becomes a sanskar. So when you do new action by intervening your intellect, then new sanskars are created. Okay, so this is how you break this loop. And without God's intervention, without this knowledge, this new knowledge of who you are and what is your quality, you just kept repeating your old patterns and reinforcing them. So now what is the challenge? Now the challenge is that I internalize this new knowledge by thinking about it, by practicing it in silence, that I am a soul and my nature is purity, peace, love. So whenever I think, I speak and I act, my thought, my word, my act should be in accordance to my nature. Okay, so when you keep this in your buddhi, then your actions become peaceful, powerful, loveful, and they create new sanskars. Or instead of saying that they create new sanskars, you could also say that they reinforce the powerful sanskars in you. Yesterday I told you that in us there are all kinds of sanskars, but right now the weak ones are more active. And now by using the intellect and creating new action, you will empower the powerful or the virtuous sanskars. Now let us take one example and understand how sanskars operate. You see, in your kitchen, those of you work in the kitchen and use the kitchen and cook, you see there are so many spices in the kitchen. And sometimes what happens is, there are a variety of spices there, but you keep using some spices regularly. Yes, maybe the salt, the turmeric, the chili, and you are not using the other ones. Then what happens is, because you are not using it, they get relegated to the, they just get pushed backwards. And then you feel that you don't have them. But then once in a while you get a glimpse that this spice is also there, and then you have this thought that I could use it whenever I make a dish again. So similarly, in our inner world also, we have all the sanskars. We have knowledge, purity, peace, love, happiness, bliss, power, and we have lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed. But right now, we have been using the weaker or the negative sanskars more, and that's why they are in a more active state. Now, when you use the intellect and you think before you think, you just become a little aware of what is my thought, what is my action. You just don't say that, because the situation is so and so, because the person is so and so, the behavior is so and so, this is the natural way to think and feel and behave. You just don't blame it on the other, but you take responsibility. You say, whatever is the situation outside, what is my nature? What is my nature? Let me think according to my nature. Then those sanskars which are natural to you, those sanskars which are the original sanskars of the soul, they start getting activated. And when these are activated, the negative ones become less activated. They become pushed to the background. They get pushed to the background. So this is how it works. Okay. So is this clear how the mind, intellect and sanskars operate, and how actions are created, and how you can change your habits? So changing your habits is not difficult, but changing your habits or reinforcing good habits or good sanskars, it requires a shift in consciousness. And when you shift your consciousness to I am a body and I am a product of my circumstances and I am but a helpless human being in this world, to I am a pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful soul responsible for my thought, behavior and words. If you take that shift, then you can shift your sanskars by repeatedly acting with the new consciousness. So this is about the operation of the inner world. So today we understood how we can change our habits, but just understanding won't help. You have to build this awareness that you are a soul, and your mind, intellect and sanskars are your organs, and you behave, you think as you are, and then reinforce the original qualities that are original to you, natural to you, and make that your emerged sanskar. So this is the practice you have to do. Now, one thing I will talk about before finishing, that is the relationship between the soul and the body. Okay, so we will see this, the relationship between the soul and the body. So let's take the picture again. So this is the picture, and in this picture there is a car and there is a driver, and the relationship between the soul and the body is similar to the relationship between a car and a driver. And what is the car? The body is the car. And who is the driver? The soul is the driver. Yes. Now let's understand this relationship. So you see, when the car is hit, So, something hits the car, another car hits the car. Then who gets hurt, the car or the driver? Yes, the driver, right? So the driver feels that my car got hurt. The driver comes out of the car and argues with the person who hit the car. The car doesn't argue for itself, does it? Similarly, who is the one feeling pain and pleasure through this body? It is the soul. So you feel the pain, you feel the pleasure through the body. Yes. And you feel as much pain and as much pleasure as you are. So if your sanskar is to feel too much pain, you will feel too much pain when something happens to the body. And if your sanskar is to not feel too much pain, to stay happy, then when something happens to the body, you will not feel it too much. Have you seen that there are people who undergo chemotherapy for cancer and everything, and still they are smiling? And there are others who get a cold and then they are so upset that everybody around them becomes upset. Yes, so it is you, the soul, who feels the pain and pleasure through the body. And your capacity to feel pain and pleasure depends on your sanskar. So if you train your sanskar, if you change your sanskar through this new consciousness and new action, then you will feel less pain and more pleasure in everything. Yes, so have you seen that? So you see, even through the body, same sense organs, you see, it's the same tongue, and then it's tasting something, and somebody would say it's very salted, and somebody would say no, the salt is less, add in some more. Yes, so who says, who decides whether the salt is less or more? It is your sanskar. If you have been eating bland food all your life, you will find everything more salted. But if you have been eating very spicy and salt rich food, then you will find everything less salted, less spicy. So it is your sanskar that tells you, when you feel something, when your sense organs or your body comes into contact with an experience, then it is you, the soul, who is experiencing through the body. That soul decides what the experience is like. And you see, even hot and cold, it is a matter of skin. But then you see, a person who lives in the mountains and they come to Delhi, they feel very hot. And there's one brother, he comes in the class and he lives in a hilly region, and when he came, he would just first frantically look for the fan because he feels very hot. And we who are living in more temperate climates or more heat, we don't feel that much hot. So that is because it is your sanskar which says, this is hot, this is cold, this is sweet, this is sour, this is bitter, this is salted, this is good, this is bad, this is painful, this is joyful. Everything that you experience through the body is done by the soul. Yes, and another thing which decides how you feel is your attention. Have you noticed that when you have an ache in some part of the body and then you are distracted, yes, so you are watching your favorite movie or you are talking to your best friend and you are having a good time, then you can't feel that pain, can you? Yes, so I'll share one experience. There was a couple, an elderly couple, they had visited the center, and that lady, she said that I have migraine all day. There is not even 1 minute when I don't feel the pain of headache. And then I asked her, don't you ever feel that pain subside? So the husband said, only when she goes shopping. You take her shopping, she doesn't feel the pain. So then the lady said, no, that's not true. And later she said, yes, that's true. I don't know what happens when I shop, I don't feel that headache. So why does that happen? Because when you're distracted, when the soul is not paying attention to something, you cannot feel it. So everything that is done through the body, the soul does through the body. And you feel everything, experience everything, whether it is hot, cold, pain, pleasure, beautiful, ugly, everything according to your sanskar. So you see, just like if when you have a computer, then the software of the computer, the programming of the computer decides how the input would be interpreted. Yes, so this body is just an input output device, and you, the soul, are the software. And as is your programming, so is your reception of the input or giving of the output. Tomorrow we will talk more about how the output goes and how we act through the body according to our sanskars. So as of now, this much we will finish the session at. And today I would like you to give me a summary of whatever you have understood until now. Maybe you have written down many points also, but whatever you have understood, I would not like you to look at your notes. I would just like you to recall whatever you have understood from these sessions, whatever has really registered in your awareness, and just make a note of that and send it to me so that I can see, so that I can read and have an idea of whether you're getting it right. Okay, and if you have any questions also, you could ask tomorrow, you could write and I could answer that. Okay, Om Shanti. Let's sit in self-awareness for some time. Just become aware of yourself. I am the seed of the tree of my life. I am hidden behind the eyes. I am the soul. I am the life force of this body. The one doing everything through this body. I see through the eyes. I hear through the ears. I am sitting right there, behind the eyes, between the ears. the living being of light. I create the thought and express it through the mouth. I am the master of this body, the driver of this car. Doing everything through the body. I know I am peaceful. Now I think peacefully. I speak peacefully. I act peacefully. I do as I am. Just sit with these thoughts for some time.
शुक्रिया शुक्रिया हे ईश्वर तेरा शुक्रिया 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 ओ अल्लाह तेरा शुक्रिया मुश्किलों से बचाने वाला तू प्राणदाता तेरा शुक्रिया 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 हे ईश्वर तेरा शुक्रिया न देखा है दिन न देखी है रात कठिनाई में जिसने बढ़ाया है हाथ उन डॉक्टर्स को हम करते हैं प्रणाम सुरक्षा कर्मियों को देते सलाम बने हो तुम रहनुमा शुक्रिया शुक्रिया तहे दिल से करे शुक्रिया 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 आपका करते हैं शुक्रिया संयम और नियम का पालन जो किया देशवासियों का शुक्रिया सच्चे दिल से करी है जो प्रार्थना उन प्रार्थियों का शुक्रिया। हर तरफ हर जगह सब स्वस्थ रहे, चलो मिलके करें ये दुआ। शुक्रिया शुक्रिया हे ईश्वर तेरा शुक्रिया। शुक्रिया शुक्रिया ओ अल्लाह तेरा शुक्रिया। शुक्रिया शुक्रिया हे ईश्वर तेरा शुक्रिया। शुक्रिया शुक्रिया मेरे अल्लाह तेरा शुक्रिया। मेरे मौला तेरा शुक्रिया। प्राणदाता तेरा शुक्रिया।